Hey, good evening, everybody. This is George Lutz, founder of Honor and Remember. It is Sunday, April 12th, and I agonize all week, not really, about what topics to talk about, as we come together on Sunday evening. And I was wrestling with a couple of things. One was state legislation. We're working on federal legislation right now, HR 1363. It is our goal as an organization to have this legislation signed and passed and signed on Memorial Day, May 25th of 2026. That's the goal. We're how many days away? Not very many days away. And we're working diligently in a number of avenues, but we're trying to get this through the Judiciary Committee because that's where it's being held up. And so we have a lot of things going on. We are getting a lot of endorsements in the last several weeks. We are getting more flags on Capitol Hill. I don't know why this thing is freezing. Hopefully it's not freezing with you, but it's freezing with me. One of our goals is to get flags outside of the offices on Capitol Hill, and that's coming together. We're getting more flags up. I've had a number of meetings with staff members in the last couple of weeks. And so that just gives you a current update. If you're working on that with us, thank you. If you're not and you'd like to get involved, let me know, because we could certainly use your help. We have a very short window and we need to make it happen. So back to topics. So trying to come up with, there's so many different things I could talk about, right? But I'm trying to see what's relevant to where we are right now with our goal of flag adoption and what would be helpful to understand. And I changed my mind a couple of times. I was going to talk about state legislation. I think I'm going to put that off till next week. We have a number of states that have legislation in process. I think at least a half a dozen states, which is wonderful because we're sitting at 29 state adoptions, and boy, I'd love to hit that number 30 and get into the 30s. And so as I'm meeting with these representatives and I'm talking about the reasons why we need this flag, why it's so important that we have this flag, it's because it touches everyone. It literally touches everyone. When I say that, I'm talking about generations of families who have given their loved ones for freedom's cause, generations that are still here with us. And, we talk a lot about the Gold Star families, and there is a variety of definitions of even what a Gold Star family is. I'm not going to go into that. You can look up the Department of Defense or now Department of War definition for what a Gold Star family is. But it was relegated to parents and spouses. Not even sure about children, but certainly not any familial units beyond that. No grandparents, aunts, uncles, et cetera, et cetera. And so when we talk about Gold Star families and when organizations are out there, supporting Gold Star families with whatever it might be that they're supporting them with, whatever benefits or wonderful gifts that they have, that's great. But it stops at a certain family unit, right? I mean, because everybody only has a bandwidth for so much. We only have enough funding to do so many. I mean, look at us. We present personalized flags to the family of one hero, in the name of one hero. Okay, so if a mother asks for one and she's divorced from the father and he happens to be married, I mean, you can see how that's a number of flags potentially, but we're only able to produce one hero. And so we even ourselves in the benevolence of what we're gifting, we can only have so much bandwidth. So if you think about it, it's very difficult to reach further out to generations, that are out there and are grieving. And let me just give you an example. When Tony was killed, certainly he had parents. Patty and I have been going on 50 years now, and certainly he had parents. He had grandparents that were still alive. He had siblings, brothers and sisters, brother and sisters. They were married. Half of them were married. They had a spouse. Tony had children. I had siblings. My wife had siblings, and they were married and had children. So you can see how this begins to mushroom. You can see how it wasn't just Patty and I who were affected by Tony's loss, or his spouse. It was his siblings. It was her siblings. I mean, that family tree is spread out. My brother alone, one of my brothers alone, has got 45 nieces and nephews. And Tony lived to be 25. So he had a chance to meet everybody in this line, right? Everybody knew him. At his funeral, there was over 1,000 people. The church was packed. They were in an overflow section. And so his friends were also there. So if you're looking at how many individuals were affected that were of blood, it was an enormous number. But yet when we say the term Gold Star families, we're only thinking about parents and spouses, not so much siblings and maybe children. And so you're looking at a huge population that are affected and grieving in their own way that nobody's touching. Nobody's talking to them. Nobody is pulling them into the process because they don't even know they exist. When we remember a hero on Memorial Day, and I've said this often, we don't know whether they were married or not. We don't know whether his parents are still alive or not. We don't know if his parents are still, if they are alive, whether they're still together or not. I mean, there's so many different ways that we're together, we're fragmented, we're split apart, we've been moved, we're located around the country. There are so many things that people are not giving thought about, not giving any credence to. And so I did a little bit of research. I'm going to read this to you, if you bear with me. It says, a typical person has roughly 25 to 45 living relatives within their immediate and extended circle. So that is parents, siblings, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and first cousins. All right, roughly 20 to 45. I've been using a number of 34. If you go to our website and you see how many flags we presented, we say that theoretically we were touching 34 times that many family members. On a wider net, if you expand the definition to include second cousins and distant relations that you may never meet, the number can exceed 150 to 200 people. This is with one casualty. When a service member dies, the ripple effect of grief extends far beyond their immediate circle. While there isn't one official government number, sociological research and military bereavement studies generally break down the impact into two categories: immediate family and the broader bereavement multiplier. On average, a single death directly impacts two parents, and that's if the parents are together and not divorced and remarried, 1 to 2 siblings, if they were married or not. Roughly 50% of active duty service members are even married. So that total is roughly 5 to 10 primary family members are considered directly bereaved by death. Okay, 5 to 10. Now we go into the bereavement multiplier, right? So researchers use this multiplier to estimate how many people are significantly impacted. So when you include aunts and uncles, cousins, blah, 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 and family members, I think I said 26 to 49 earlier. If you expand that definition to include close friends, unit members, mentors, some estimates suggest that as many as 135 people are exposed to the grief of one military loss. Okay, so just as a recap, 5 to 10 in a nuclear family, 25 to 50 in an extended family, and 100 to 200 in a broader network. So multiply that out, right? So the military often treats Gold Star family, as I mentioned, as the spouse and the parents. But this was in the past. In modern support systems, we increasingly recognize that the family also includes the siblings. And they use a term here called forgotten mourners. And then the unit members often experience a form of familial grief due to the intense bonds formed in combat, right? They're brothers. You've heard that term, band of brothers. And so if you take those numbers and you look at how many people are grieving over the loss of these heroes, it's a lot more than just a few. It's a lot more than just the Gold Star families. There is such a broader network out there, and they need to be touched. They need to know that their loved one hasn't been forgotten. And if we're not bringing them to Washington and giving them awards or inviting them to weekends, and I'm not saying that some organizations aren't doing this. I hope that they are, and some pull in depending. But as a general population, we don't know anything about the hero. So when you go to Memorial Day and you think, oh, we got Memorial Day, we're going to remember the hero. Well, I've told you over and over again, every day is Memorial Day. Every day is a different Memorial Day, right? Depending on when that hero died. And so how do you speak to all of these individuals out there who are grieving? There's no way. There's no way to even possibly know them. And if you go back to what I've said over and over in terms of the people groups, remember I talked about the A, B, and C people, the people that are very outgoing, they're very extroverted, they're out there, they're getting their loved one's name everywhere. Then you've got your kind of mediocre middle. I don't mean to call you mediocre, but the middle group who, sometimes you'll hear from them, sometimes you won't. And I'm talking about parents here most of the time, and spouses. And then that type C family that you're not going to hear about. They're not going to make themselves known. They're very introverted. And so extend that out to these 200. And you can't catch them all. You just can't catch them. The net's not wide enough. There's no way that you can possibly speak to them all. And this is why the honor and remember flag is so important. Because as I started to say when I began, it reaches everyone. It literally reaches everyone. As we begin to fly this flag, as we begin to educate, as we begin to bring awareness, more states, more flags on flagpoles, federal adoption, then everybody who sees it that is affected by this loss, everybody who sees it is going to know that that message is for them. We're saying thank you to every single one, every familial unit. One story I have, and this is really just about a father, it's in the book, and I don't think I've talked about it on tape, but when I first developed the flag and I was going to gift it personalized, I was only going to gift it to mothers. I was only interested in mothers. I mean, I was married to one. I am married to one. And so I wanted to make sure that mothers, I know what that pain is like. I've seen that suffering. And I think mothers, slapped me on the wrist at that moment. Uh, as I was going through this, I thought mothers suffered the greatest loss. So I wanted to personalize the flag and give them to mothers. It wasn't too long after that a father called me up and said, "Hey, what about us? I'm not married to my son's mother anymore. I'm on my own, and I deserve to be remembered too. I'm in pain. I'm hurting." And I went, "Oh my gosh, you're absolutely right." We had dinner, we had a long conversation, talked about this, and I realized that, yeah, I'm a dad, right? I get it. And we need to honor those fathers as well. And so I opened the net a little wider to fathers and then to spouses and as wide as I could, right? This flag represents everyone who died while serving or as a result of serving, and touches every familial unit, right? I get that. I talked to a Medal of Honor recipient, Woody Williams. He and I were close friends before he passed, and we had conversations about when he first started his memorial monuments, he had mothers, Gold Star mothers, engraved on the monument, and he had this same kind of revelation when a father came up to him, different father, but we all have the same mindset. Different father came up to him and challenged him with the same words, and so he and I had conversations after that, and and his conclusion was, I said, "Well, what do you got to go your own path, man? I'm going down my path. You have to decide for yourself." And he ended up putting Gold Star families and relatives. Okay, so he expanded it by doing that. I think it was Gold Star mothers and relatives, and then Gold Star families and relatives. But he understood that. That's easy to do on your monument. But when you're out there giving benefits to families, even the federal government, there's only so much bandwidth. There's only so many family relationships you can go down to, right, in order to, give everybody a benefit. And, I'm glad I'm kind of in that boat too. But so that just gives you an example of how this is extended. But when the flag flies, is that umbrella, right? It is that net that's cast out there that literally touches everyone that you will never meet, you don't even know exists. You will have no way of knowing how deep those families go. No way of knowing ever. I had someone come up to me, and I know this seems really silly, but I had someone come up to me and said, and this was after we had been endorsed by the Sons of the American Revolution. And that was always my hope, that this flag would be embraced all the way back to the beginning of our country's history. That's really important to me because that's a wide net, right? That casts a wide net. But I had a relative, descendant, come up to me and say, "You have no idea what this flag means to me because we lost our great, 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 and our family hasn't been the same since." I don't know that impact. I can't attest to that. I can't speak to that, or I didn't even know what to say. But what I'm showing you, and I hope that I'm articulating to you, is that this goes beyond anything that's ever existed before, that will literally touch every single family unit member, everybody on that family tree, in a way that we've never had before, that something like this has never existed. This is the impact of what we do. When you say you support Gold Star families, it's not just, think about that. It's not just the immediate family. It can't be. The Gold Star banner that the families put up is only for the immediate families. It's not for every familial unit to put up a Gold Star banner. They're not Gold Star second cousins, aunts, uncles, nephews, nieces. That's not the way that banner was designed. And so that banner itself allows that family when you hang it on your window or your door to send a message to their neighbors. It's a one-way message to their neighbors. Hey, we lost someone. We lost a close relative, our son, our daughter, our spouse, right? But it's not for every single member of that family to hang a banner and put it out there. I mean, that's not what the intent was. Now, some may do it. Juxtaposition the honor and remember flag, where now that is a messaging opportunity for the neighbors to articulate back to the families. Now, it's not just going back to the families, so it's a wider message, right? If you're listening to what I'm saying. Now, when you put that flag up, you're sending a message to every Gold Star family in America, regardless of where they fit in to that tree that I'm talking about. Regardless of where they fit in, you're now sending a message to every single one who you will never meet. That's the power of that. Emma Johnson, Gold Star grandmother, lost her son, who she raised, her grandson, who she raised, Lance Corporal Adam Crumpler, in 2005, a few months before Tony was killed. She raised that boy, but she would not have been considered Gold Star immediate family. I think they've expanded that already, since the War on Terror, but that would not have been the case. And so I hope you understand that what we're able to do is to send a message way beyond just the immediate. Let me take it one step forward to battle buddies and survivor's guilt. Matthew Drake, Army Corporal, I believe, Matthew Drake, was blown up in a Humvee with 3 of his friends in Iraq. He didn't even know what had happened. He survived. Everyone else was killed. He was in rehabilitation for, I believe, 2 years before he finally was told that he was the only survivor. He didn't know what to do. He didn't have a chance to meet the families, to meet the mothers. He found out about the Honor and Remember flag. And one of the first things he did when he got as well as he could be, he's still pretty much handicapped, as you can imagine, was he got it in his dress blues, and he sponsored flags for every one of those family of mothers, and he presented them in a formal ceremony. Sorry about that. In a formal ceremony in front of actually at a movie premiere in front of a very large audience. This was the way that he had to give back and to reach out and overcome that survivor's guilt. And it was his first communication to those parents, since the accident. There are so many different ways that this flag is able to impact in so many ways that I can't even begin to describe all of the ways of why this is important. So HR 1363, it's not just about Gold Star families. You can imagine, by the federal adoption of this symbol, we are now sending a message that will impact generations of those affected by the grief of a loved one that they loved, a relative that they loved. State Senator Bill Brown in Oklahoma never met his father. He was 3 months old. He was killed in World War II. I was able to present a flag to him. And you can imagine the emotional response when I was able to say his father's name out loud and show him on a personalized flag. How much that meant to him is indescribable. And so this flag has so much more impact. Those of you veterans out there, that may have never met the families of their battle buddies who died. You know, you need to understand it's not just those family members that are affected. I mean, I don't know that I can emphasize this enough, the importance of what this means to so many. I did a quick little research. We've presented almost 6,000 flags, and I did not do any extensive research, but I just did a really quick few minute check on the database to see how many flags we presented to relatives outside of the spouses and even children and parents. And I just came up with a quick number of about 300. I mean, that's just in our little simple database of how we have had those family members request a flag. That's the only way we will present a flag is by request. And so that was the number that I just came up with really quickly, 300 of outside the immediate family. So the long-term effect of this flag is just so much more important than what you might think. And it's like, oh, you're just trying to define the gold star. No, this isn't about gold star. It's about being appreciative. It's about being appreciative. And I've said this over and over again. When my son came to me and he said, Dad, I joined the Army, and I said, keep your head down. I said a lot of things, but I'll make it short. I said, keep your head down. You could get hurt. I love you. Right? And he didn't come home. He didn't come home. And I tell you that there's only a few in this country, percentage-wise, that even serve, and fewer still that don't come home, right? Those of you who did get to come home and start a career and raise a family, God bless you, and enjoy the freedoms that you protected and preserved for us. But I will tell you that every family in America would rather somebody else's loved one died for their country besides their own. I would love to have my son back and let sacrifice be somebody else's burden, but that's not going to happen. And because somebody else's loved one is dying for your freedom so that your family member doesn't have to, what's the least that you can do? Be appreciative. Be appreciative. Be thankful. And how do you do that? Well, I've just explained to you that there's hundreds of family members that you could put in the umbrella of the Gold Star community. Okay, hundreds. You might send a message to one if you knew one, but you can't possibly know them all. The Honor Remember flag is the only iconic, symbolic, comprehensive, continuous messaging opportunity that I know that we have in America. This is why this is so important. And I ask that you join with me. Put this flag up on a flagpole. Get it on your flagpole. Your own, your business, your church, your community, your HOA, wherever. If you see a flagpole, go and talk to them about it. Your VSO. We need to have this on every flagpole so that we can send a message to every single family who we will never meet. Hey, I mentioned about HR 1363. Go out, sign the Declaration of Remembrance, declarationofremembrance.com. I've put this up before. Hopefully you guys see this. But I also want to let you know that we have this really cool t-shirt. I'm actually sporting it. Pretty cool. We've got generations of heroes with the American flag and the Honor Remember flag. On the back, I won't show it to you, but it says Declaration of Remembrance, 250 years of freedom, 250 years of sacrifice, Together we remember them all. Now, will you join me in this mission? Let's get this flag adopted. Next week, I'll talk about state legislation. If it's not adopted in your state, how you can help get it adopted in your state. And, God bless you guys. Thank you so much, for following this mission. 18 years. 18 years. We began on Memorial Day of 2008, and my dream is a passage on Memorial Day, 18 years later, May 25th, 2026. Boy, my mind is gone today. God bless you guys. I really appreciate you hanging with me. We're going to get this done. We're going to get it done together. honorandremember.org if you want to look for this t-shirt. Have a good night.